Okay, hi everyone. Thanks for coming in. Just give it a few minutes to get everybody in the room. I'm sat here with Emma with her lovely Christmas tree and her decorations, sporting a very nice backdrop. I'm afraid mine's not as exciting. So hi everyone. Oh, there's loads of you. Brilliant. Nice to see everyone. Hope you've all had a kind of okay-ish Christmas. And like me, probably feel you drank and ate far too much, but welcome, welcome. We'll just give it a minute now. So for those of you who don't know, I'm Sarah Hemsley-Cole of SC Productions and co-founder of NOWIE. And this evening, as you will all know, I'm joined by Emma Reynolds-Taylor. So we'll just give it a minute now and see if there's many more coming in. Great, loads of you tonight. That's so fantastic. Obviously, we chose the best day.
Yay!
Pre-New Year, the world is a changing place today.
Oh, it is.
But hey, brilliant.
Next year will be nothing like this year.
Well, who knows? Who knows? Right, I think that's a fair amount of people in. So we'll make a start. If others come, well, they can join us. So Emma, welcome. Oh my God, it's so exciting to see you with your tree and to have a chat and an opportunity for everyone who's on the call with us this evening. You're more than welcome to ask questions. Please use the Q&A facility for your questions. We have disabled the chat facility. The chat is with Emma, not between yourselves. So that's the real focus of our time this evening. And we're here to get to know Emma as the sort of production and technical manager that she is, and learn a little bit about how she got where she is and what she's up to these days. This is not an opportunity, I'm afraid, to ask Emma or interrogate her around Glastonbury 2021. As we all know, next summer is a difficult time and we're still unsure of how it's going to be, but I'm afraid this is not the opportunity to ask probing questions. Emma is not a spokesperson for Glastonbury. But I hope this evening she will share with us some of her highlights of working on the festival. So please be respectful of her as an individual and get to know her as a person throughout the course of the next hour. So Emma, I just want to start really by saying thank you so much for joining us. And where did it all begin? Like, how did you end up as the great woman that you are today, doing all the things?
First off, thank you so much for having me. I'm so flattered to be here, and thank you to everyone who's who's come to listen. Like, super appreciate that. So yeah, like, great introduction as well. Thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate that. So yeah, I mean, my route into this job was definitely very unconventional. I actually went to university to study marine biology, so got all my science A levels and went off to university to qualify as a marine biologist. Moved to London to work at the London Aquarium. I was the person who would do all the talks and talk to you about sharks and things like that. And ended up getting a job, a part-time job in the Virgin Megastore on Oxford Street. And ended up like meeting a load of people there, and somehow, I don't really know how it came about, ended up moving to Canada and doing a snowboard season, and then moving to Hawaii and doing a load of surfing. And off the back of that, when I came back to London, I actually got headhunted by Vans Footwear, like the skateboard, like snowboard surfing company. And I actually started working for them, and I was doing loads of things. Like, we do loads of events and like loads of different things there. And I worked in the skateboard industry for quite a while. That's actually how I met my husband, who's a professional BMX rider. That's how we met. So he rides for Vans, and I very quickly realised that like events were the things that I wanted to do when I was working at Vans. I'd always be like, when's our next event? What am I doing on the job? And at those events, I very quickly realised that it was the music side of things that I was a lot more interested in. Like, we did big events called Urban Games that had like skateboarding, BMX competitions, breakdancing, and a music stage. And it was really quickly, I was like gravitating towards the music side of things. And I'd gone to festivals forever. My mum actually used to work in the motorcycle industry and had a really good contact at the racetrack and got us tickets to what was Monsters of Rock, which is now Download. And so I was 14, first festival I ever went to. I had backstage passes and was just like, I have no idea what anybody here is doing, but I want to do all of it. You know, this is where I feel like I belong. I was just like, yes, you know, this is where I want to be. No idea how you even made a job out of any of that. You know, I just had no idea. But just I got bitten by the live music kind of festival bug. Went to Reading the following year, Glastonbury the year after. Every year after that, it was just all about music festivals. How many could I get to? You know, how could I fit them all in? Every year I'd get more and more people to come with me to Glastonbury. You know, I started off just 2 of us and ended up in a massive group of like 40 people, you know, by the end of my last time that I went there. So I was really, really fortunate to be able to combine my personal love of festivals into actually making it into a job. And I was actually on a snowboard holiday while I was still working in like the skateboard industry, and I met a lady, a wonderful lady that a lot of you probably know, called Jill T, who was running the Hot Farm Festival at the time. It was in its first year, and because I was doing a lot of like I said, like the extreme sports events, and I deal with a lot of athletes, and she said, did I want to come and, you know, look after some of the bands at the Hot Farm Festival in its first year? So I did that in its first year, loved it, was just like, this is for me. You know, I really enjoyed working there, really made the most of the opportunity. And off the back of that, Jill asked me to come and do more stuff with her, and it just kind of grew and grew from there. And I was really lucky that I just got to grow my role at the Hot Farm, you know, starting off in year 1 in artist liaison, and that festival ran for 6 years. And by the 6th year, you know, I was a technical production manager, and I'm really grateful for Jill for A, giving me that initial opportunity, and B, kind of letting me explore different roles there. You know, like I started off in the site office, like hated in the second year, hated it. I was like, this is just not for me. You know, I think it's a super valuable job, but it just didn't suit me. And then I was Jill's like assistant to the festival director, which was great because you get to learn about every side of the festival. But as well as doing the, you know, the technical side of things, I used to do a lot of the operations. Like I do all of the security deployments and loads of things like that. And, you know, I got qualified at CAD so I could muck about with the site plans. And but really quickly, I was gravitating towards the stage management, like technical production side of things, like really quickly. And like I said, super grateful for Jill that she gave me that opportunity to go into that side of things and to let me sort of explore that. And after year 1 of doing that, I was like, yes, you know, this is for me. So yeah, so good, just sort of carried on doing that, which I loved. And I think if you're doing something you really, really, really enjoy, first of all, it doesn't really feel like work. And secondly, I think that's where you're going to be able to really hone your craft and get good at something, is thoroughly enjoying it. And then unfortunately, the Hot Farm Festival, it did go bankrupt after 6 years. So we all sort of had to move on. And I had a year between the Hot Farm finishing and this opportunity on Glastonbury that came up, where I just did everything. I just feet first. You know, if someone was like, do you want to come and, you know, be our stage manager on a main stage, I'd be like, yeah. And I was just like, that's terrifying, but yeah, you know. And I just took every opportunity that I could, and just really immersed myself and just learn as much as I could throughout the whole time on the Hot Farm. But in that year, I just did everything, which was a really steep learning curve, which was, you know, it made me feel like kind of fearless after that. You know, I just thought, yeah, I can just do anything now, within reason. And then this great opportunity at Glastonbury came up, and it's in 2014. And I actually took a really junior role in the first year. I was like, it's Glastonbury, you know, it's a pyramid stage. Like, yeah, I'll do anything. I'll come and make cups of tea and sweep the office floor. You know, I just was so excited to be able to be involved in that festival on that stage. And then it was just really good timing that it was when Emily was starting to transition into taking over the festival and take over from Michael. Obviously Michael was still really heavily involved, but Emily was sort of taking the reins a lot more in that year. That was my first year of involvement. And she really is an advocate for like females, not only like on the lineup, which is really well publicized, that she wants to get as many, female headliners and females on the bill as possible, but also in like production roles, which, as and as a lot of people probably watching know, it's a really heavily male dominated industry in the technical production side of things in particular. And Emily just really wanted to push forward, a sort of younger female in that production role. And I was just right place, right time, I think. It was a case of, being available because the Hot Farm wasn't happening anymore. The Hot Farm was this really unique beast that, we had Prince do his only ever UK festival performance. We had Bob Dylan there a couple of times, amazing, massive acts, like Morrissey, the Eagles. And it was kind of like a mini kind of pyramid lineup in this field in Kent. And so the experience I had with real heavyweight acts was kind of unique, so it was like, not only am I available, but I've got the experience of working with acts of that level that they would have on the pyramid. So Emily gave me that opportunity, and pushed me forward. And it's just the same thing as the Hot Farm. It's just grown every year. I've been lucky enough to be given promotions and more responsibility like every year that I've been there, and just sort of grown my role, which is amazing. It really, for me, absolute dream come true. So it's just typical. It's in its big 50th year that we didn't quite get to do it, but
well, that's amazing. And what for me is really inspiring, Emma, there is that two other women have given you what you consider to be those really massive leg ups in the industry. And I think in terms of when you first started to take on that sort of, or be excited by the sort of technical and production world, who were your sort of mentors in that? I mean, I know that's not necessarily Jill's thing herself in terms of technical production, but who were your mentors? Who did you sort of really aspire to learn from? Because that's a big world to suddenly get your head around. Like, I went to drama school and did technical theatre, so like been with me for a long journey, but for you just sort of ended up in it. So
I mean, to be honest, there really wasn't one person that I was like, that's what I want to do, that is where I sort of want to be. It's kind of as I was going along, I didn't really even know where you could end up with it. I was very much like learning on my feet, massively sort of feet first, like in at the deep end, which I personally think is an amazing way to learn and to kind of cut your teeth with things. Very much sink or swim, especially with the sort of acts that we had. You just had to get on with it. You just had to figure it out and kind of learn, so I just feel like every single job I ever do, from right at the beginning until now, I try and learn something on every single job. I sort of go into all of them and think, right, what can I learn here? How can I take something away from this that can improve what I do on all of my jobs, like day to day? And I've always been like that. I've been like this sponge that's just kind of soaked everything up. And I didn't really sort of think, right, these are the steps. I'm going to start here. I'm going to do so many years here, and kind of work on to this. It was just kind of, I'm loving this right now. I'm learning as much as I possibly can. And I think, having come from a science background and having that degree, in the marine biology, which was really competitive science to kind of be in, everyone wants to swim with dolphins and, it was really competitive. But it really made me like know how to learn and know how to research, and I think I've always taken that with me, that I've sort of learned everything as I go, and tried to keep all of that knowledge and experience and, share it with other people. And, I've always said the day that you think you know everything is the day you need to just, hang up your high vis and do something else. I think it's really important to always be learning and always be, transitioning all the time. And I think that's what's really helped me. But there really wasn't just like you know, one person. It was so many people, you know. I'd sort of every stage manager that I saw, I'd be like, right, you know, wow, what is this dark art that you're kind of doing up here, you know, and like, oh right, okay, so you're doing that, but you're doing it that way. And I would just kind of absorb everything from everybody that I worked with. And you know, it's really good to learn from other people's mistakes as well as learn, you know. So that's been something that has been really valuable to me as well. I've sort of seen a lot of people, you know, sort of do things probably isn't the right way of doing things, but it was a great learning curve for me, you know, to learn from other people's mistakes. But yeah, it's just like I said, learning as I went along and gathering knowledge. And you know, just I've got so many people that I would credit with helping me along the way in terms of, like, you know, that learning curve and kind of picking up bits of information and kind of learning all the time, just it all up.
Brilliant. And then, you know, obviously you've done the festival things, but you've also done things like world tours with bands, with Metallica and things like that. You know, that's a very different world actually to the festival world, that sort of world tour, the bus, the flights, you know, different countries. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, very, very, very different. I mean, I was lucky enough to get asked to go on tour with Metallica when they headlined Glastonbury. So that was, like I said, my first year at Glastonbury. I focused like primarily on like the headliners and the Heritage Act, which was Dolly Parton that year. And so I was dealing a lot with Metallica, and great team. And they asked me to come on tour with them probably about 8 months later, and we did Northern Europe and Russia, which was incredible. And then they asked me to do their other leg the following year, which was Central and South America. So absolutely amazing. But that was again very much in at the deep end. That was my first tour, was a world tour with one of the biggest metal bands in the world. And I actually remember a girl that I was working with, a good friend of mine, Lucy, who's also English, and she was on the tour as well. And I remember her saying, imagine if this was your first tour. And I was like, no, it is. And she was like, no, like imagine if this was it right now. If this was your first one, that'd be ridiculous. And I was like, no, this is it. Like, this is my first tour. And she was just like, oh my God. But I loved the fact that we were a few days in by then and she hadn't realised. So I was like, that's great. You know, I kind of just managed to, you know, sneak along, you know, without people realising that, you know, again, I was just learning as I went along. But that was such a valuable experience for me, because I really wanted to learn what it was like to be the person coming in with the production, because I felt like that would massively improve the service that I was giving people at a festival or, you know, a show when they were coming in to me, sort of receiving a big band, having that experience of what it's like to have probably slept for a couple of hours, you know, been on a tour bus and been on back-to-back flights, you know, to get to places and have everyone's luggage lost, and you know, all the kind of dramas that you deal with day to day on the road on a tour, and knowing what that feeling's like when you then turn up somewhere and why everything has to be perfect, because you know, you just you know, just existing on this sort of wire. And that was really great experience for me. It was really, really valuable. So I was lucky enough to get other tours kind of, you know, off the back of that. And I continue to do as many of those as I can fit in around festivals, because it's just great experience. You know, it's really important, I think, to see both sides of it, you know, and yeah, be able to just know what it's like to be exhausted, you know, and not have everything that you need kind of with you to then turn up and know what it's like when things aren't quite as you thought they were going to be, that you've spent ages advancing and it's not right. And that, knowing why that's so important has been so valuable to me, and definitely makes me think, you know, when you're thinking, I'm like, why do they need that? You're like, I know why they need that. I'm just going to order. I'm going to make sure it's done,
exactly.
You know?
yeah. My touring experience is not as glamorous as yours there with a world tour, but I totally appreciate knowing what it's like from both sides. And I would encourage anyone who wants to sort of be a receiver to also be the person on the other side if you get that opportunity, because
100%.
like you say, you know, that sense of knowing what it's like when someone steps off a tour bus first thing in the morning and they're ratty and pissy with you, and if you've been there, you kind of know why they're doing that, and you know that they haven't had their laundry, they haven't had a shower, the tour bus isn't quite everything that perhaps people think they are on the other side. Do you know what I mean? So
100%.
No, amazing.
It's definitely not that big glamorous existence that people think it is, you know. There's that side of it where, yes, if you're in the band, yeah, like, you know, like private jets and personal chefs, you know, but it's not like that for us. And I think there is that misconception that everyone that tours with the band experiences it like the band do, and it's like, no, especially when you're in production, you know, you're the first in and you're the last out, like you are on a festival site, and it's tough, you know, you're existing on like 0 sleep, and then you've got to get on a plane, and you know, it's really really constant. So yeah, like you say, it's just a really super thing to experience, for sure.
Yeah, the reality of the toilet etiquette was always my kind of, you know, where the chaps would explain to me that if they were desperate, they'd literally shit in a carrier bag in the toilet because it was only for number ones.
Yeah,
I was like, oh god, no, really. So yeah,
keep them minimal. It's good to be on a festival site where you can do whatever you need to do whenever you need to do it.
exactly. So that was one of my other questions for you. Many years ago, Zach and I set up NOWIE, the Network of Women in Events, and it was partly due to a conversation that we were having on the beach one day, getting very irate that women never get nominated for roles or awards at the TPI Awards. And that whatever you do in the music industry, you'd be shoehorned into the production assistant category, because that was the only one that women could be, seem to be eligible for. And then brilliantly, you won a TPI award as a stage manager, which was just fantastic. I'm sure it's not had a massive impact on your career, but I just wanted to say it was a brilliant moment.
When you took that. For me, it was just, I was absolutely gobsmacked. Like, I can't remember what year. 2017 was the first one, and then I think 2020, which is definitely the one that hasn't had the most impact, because I won that in February, and then kind of 3 weeks later, you know, everything was dormant. But I think 2017 was, both of them I've been incredibly grateful for both of them. It's amazing. But especially 2017, I was like, I had no idea that anybody knew who I was. You know, I was like, have they got, because there is actually another Emma Reynolds who works in production, which is just like corporate stuff. And I was like, it's the other one. I was like, I didn't know she was the stage manager. I was like, it can't be me. And I remember I didn't even look at the list, you know, and it was while I was on one of the tours with Metallica that it came out that I'd made the short list, or the long list, I think, at first. And people were like texting me, like saying, oh, congratulations. And I was like, what? I was like, no, I can't have. No, you know, it can't be me. And then, yeah, just right up until sort of making the short list, and then, yeah, like hearing my name on the night, I was still kind of like, am I supposed to be standing up? Is it definitely me? You know, it was only when I kind of got an email to say, are you definitely coming to the awards? I was like, oh, it must be me. But then, yeah, when they called my name out, I was like, yeah, it's absolutely gobsmacked. And then, yeah, in 2020, I got also shortlisted for the production manager of the year and the stage manager, and won the stage manager one. So that was just incredible, you know, to be in 2 categories in 1 year was just amazing. So yeah, everyone that voted for that, because it's voted for by your peers as well, that's what made that ultra special. You know, anyone that took time to vote for that, I'm just like overwhelmed and so grateful. And it has made a big impact, I think, just in terms of like confidence as well. That, like I said, I seriously didn't think anyone knew who I was in 2017. I was like, how am I on this list with these like stellar stage managers that I considered like stage management royalty? How am I on this list with them? And then to win, I was just like, oh, that's incredible. You know, to have everyone be like, oh, that was so well deserved. You know, it was really nice, like the feedback that I kind of got from that. It was really good in terms of like, yeah, self-confidence. And I do think it ups your profile. You know, people are aware of you that perhaps, you know, weren't before. So yeah, it's, you know, it's, for me, it's been great. I'm so grateful.
Well, there was a whole horde of women behind you. So proud. Because you know, I think you're totally right. And you know, one thing that we've learned through NOWIE is that it is really just a confidence thing. Interestingly, Jill T was one of our original founders with us as well. You know, because it is about giving women confidence and giving women role models, and just that world, that there's a greater world there. You know, everybody, you know, like you say, once you get into the industry, you realize all the different roles and jobs that can happen. But I think a lot of people don't realize that they could do them. You know, and I think that's, you know, it's really important to be those role models, you know, in whatever way we can.
Be very positive about other sort of women, you know, trying to get into the industry. And I'm always so happy when I see, you know, even if it's not the same job as me, like, you know, female sound engineers and, you know, female lighting designers and lighting techs, you know, I'm always like, wow, that's amazing, you know. And I always try and go out of my way to, you know, acknowledge them and kind of be like, hey, you know, and like, yes, you know, this is fucking wicked that you're doing this, you know. It's I just think it's brilliant. And any sort of, you know, younger women that I've got to give those opportunities to, I just love it, you know. I really like that whole you know, being able to pass that along, you know what I mean? The fact that people that have helped me, and, you know, you can sort of then help someone else in some way. I just think that's a really special thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how we're going to build our own ecosystem as well. Do you know what I mean? In sense of, and particularly now coming out of, you know, what's been a really hard year, I think all of that support and giving that young generation that sense that this industry will come back and it will be there and it will give them the opportunities that it's given us is really, really important. Because, you know, at the moment you're looking out thinking, well, the entertainment sector's on its arse and what can we do? And ultimately, you know, I think it is important in terms of turning things around. In fact, we've got a question that's come in from Chris, who's he's obviously asking a question about when searching for event jobs, lots of the roles are described as needing entry-level position, but actually they require quite a bit of specific experience. How should people in the early stages of their career navigate this problem? And do you think the way you started your career is still applicable to young people now?
I know that everyone hates hearing this, but volunteering does get you so much experience. And I think taking jobs that you think probably aren't necessarily ultimately where you want to be, and you don't think they're that relevant, they really massively are. Like I said, I did such a wide variety of jobs in the year between Hot Farm and Glastonbury, and like I said earlier, I learned something on every single one of those jobs that I still take with me now. And, you know, like, it's experience with brands and, you know, corporate things, you know, even if you just like really want to go on tour with a band, or you really just want to work at a festival, there's so many other things you can do to get really relevant experience. And I think people do tend to fall into the trap quite easily of being too sort of narrow with it, and I have to get this experience like at a festival for it to be applicable for a festival job. And I don't actually think that's the case. I think you can get great experience, you know, at theatres that applies to festivals, you know, and so many different things. And, you know, kind of, you know, don't be afraid of like starting small. You know, there's loads of like bands that you could like volunteer with to help with their tours and shows and local gigs and all of that. I think, and also don't fall into that trap of thinking, I want to go in at this level and I really want to be doing this job. You know, like I said, my Glastonbury job when I first took that was a really junior role compared to what I'd been doing at the Hot Farm Festival, but it led to what I'm doing now. And also when I went on tour with Metallica, that obviously started off as much, you know, it's much more entry level than being, you know, the production manager of the Pyramid stage. But I wasn't going to go, well, I'm going to be the production manager of that tour because I production manage a festival. You know, I understood that I needed to take many, many, many steps back and go in at that level. And I think a lot of people, when they're looking for jobs, they sort of forget that going in at a lower level than what they would necessarily be used to or want to, they sort of forget about that. So I think, yeah, don't be afraid to go in really low level. You'll pick up so much experience, and it's that contacts as well, isn't it? You know, if you come and say, I'll make tea for you for the weekend for free, I'll empty the bins, I'll sweep the floor, I'll make tea, you can make some amazing contacts doing that. And I think where it served me really well was to really make the most of every opportunity. You know, when I first got that job with Jill at the Hot Farm Festival, there's loads of my favourite bands playing there. I didn't just go, I'm just going to go off and watch all the bands. It was like, I'm going to work really hard and do whatever I'm asked to do. And I think making the most of those opportunities when you get them, and don't get kind of blinded by the lights and think, oh, I can just go off and watch all the bands, you know. And I think saying, like, you know, is how I sort of got in the industry still applicable? I think very much so, in terms of making the most of those opportunities and just working really hard and recognizing when there's an opportunity there and making the most of it. I think that's always going to be applicable, like, forever. And one of the things Jill said to me when I started working with her, I said, look, I don't have masses of experience in this field that you're working in. And she said, you know, yes, there's people that have got more experience, but you've got the right personality to work with me. You can learn how to do a job. You can't learn how to have a different personality or a different mindset, you know. So I think if you have that mindset of, I'm going to work, I can work really hard, I can do really long days, I'm not going to have an ego about this, I'm going to make the most of these opportunities, you're already like leaps ahead already. And I think, don't underestimate experience of other jobs, you know, like working in cafes and like customer service roles and things like that. They're all really applicable to festival jobs. You know, if you're used to really long days and being on your feet all day and dealing with sort of ratty customers, then great, like you could probably work in the dressing rooms, you know, because it's really similar, you know what I mean? It's like there are things that you can take from other jobs to build up your experience. So I think, yeah, volunteering and just, you know, getting yourself out there with as many people as possible is just the best way to build up that CV, to kind of go, okay, here's this entry level job, but here's all this experience that I've already got.
Yeah, brilliant. No, that's top advice. I totally endorse that, absolutely. And also, never think that something you've done before isn't valid going forward. Yeah. You know, every experience you have, every moment, every interaction has a validity, and you know, you take those with you right through. So and obviously you came back to work with Jill and more recently on her festival, the Black Deer Festival.
Yes, yeah, that's been really exciting. I mean, that was just such a nice kind of 360 kind of you know, story, because it was when Glastonbury was having its fallow year. That's when Jill launched Black Deer, and approached me and said she'd love for me to come and, you know, do the technical production on that. And I pulled all the stage management team together, and it was so nice working with her again, that we said, right, okay, even though Glastonbury you know, was back on in 2019 and supposed to be in 2020, I still pulled all the team together for her, and like the initial planning, and then had a team that would then advance the bands and physically be on site while I was at Glastonbury, because unfortunately they overlapped too much. But it was just such a great experience to be working with Jill again. It was just so nice. And, you know, I think that's linking back to what I was saying before about when you make these contacts, you know, they can just be so valuable in terms of not just like getting work, but getting really enjoyable work, you know, and like having these really enjoyable experiences with people. You know, I think once you find people that you enjoy working with, it's really great that you can get to, you know, keep that contact. And you know, you might not work together for 5 years, and then all of a sudden something will sort of come around and it would just be perfect, and you can, you know, link back up together again, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. Got another question here. There's likely to be a series of operational adjustments that have to be made as we emerge from the COVID crisis, before we can go back to fully normal. What sort of changes do you perhaps envisage?
Well, I actually already did a live stream for an act in the beginning of December. So it was in a venue, no audience. So obviously that side of things was taken away, but there was already so many different things that we had to put in place that we wouldn't normally have done, you know, pre-COVID. And I mean, we really kind of went through the mill with it. You know, we even had there was 2 talents. One of them came down with COVID 48 hours before we were actually due to do the show. So luckily, you know, been tested, and we had to put the show back by 3 weeks. So it's just, even just initially things like that. Yes, people get ill, but not as likely as this. And, you know, the fact that it like spreads, you know, there was no opportunity for him to still come in, even if he felt okay. We had to postpone the show. So that was kind of the big initial kind of thing that you're dealing with is your talent well enough, and their whole team, you know, are they well enough? And, you know, how that's kind of managed in terms of like, you know, testing and isolating and stuff. And then once we were on site, you know, it was the hand sanitizing as soon as people came in, you know, COVID declaration forms, you know, making sure no one had got any symptoms before they came onto site, and again getting them to sign again, you know, as they entered the site, you know, making sure everyone's hand washing before we're using like a shared kettle and things like that. It's just, you know, everything has gone up a notch already, and, you know, having to wear a mask indoors, the socially distancing, you know, all of that stuff is stuff that I think, even though we've got a vaccine, is stuff we're going to probably be carrying on, you know, well into next year. But I think we're all used to that now in our normal lives. You know, it's kind of like how it is going to the supermarket, just those things while you're working, you know. So I think on the bigger scale though, you know, once you've got an audience, I mean, I just have no idea like how all of that's gonna happen. Literally, it just melts my brain when I try and think about it. But luckily on something as big as Glastonbury, that's like way out of my pay grade. So I don't need to, you know, worry about how the audience is, you know, kind of in and how that works. But it would definitely be something we need to think about in terms of like stages, like how, you know, do we need to socially distance them, and dressing rooms, you know, because you've only got an infinite amount of space, you know. It's not like you can just keep building and building and building and building things, especially something like the pyramid, and it's a fixed structure. It can't get any bigger. So, you know, how we kind of work on all of that, we'll just have to wait and see, you know, how the vaccine plays a part in that. And yeah, but hopefully by the time sort of next summer comes round, it'll be less of an issue, I hope. But yeah, there's just really no way of knowing, you know. Like I said, my poor little brain just aches trying to, you know, fathom it all at the moment.
Yeah, no, it is like you say, it's just that cleanliness, isn't it, really, and just really keeping on top of that hygiene stuff at the moment, and the masks. That's in every practice that, you know. And I found on a few things I've done, you know, when you're working and you're familiar with the people around you, you have to constantly remind yourself, I need to stay apart. You know, you can't just go over and look at someone's computer screen as you've perhaps done previously. All those things.
Yeah, I found the hardest thing for me is the whole, like, you know, you use your facial expressions a lot, you know, especially in like high pressure jobs. You know, you want to have that sense of humor, and you want people to know that you're smiling, and, you know, to kind of jolly people along. And, you know, if things are maybe not going right, it's always better to kind of handle them with a lightness and, you know, that kind of sense of humor. And trying to do all of that when you're wearing a mask, I found that to be the biggest challenge for me. You know, how do you get across that you're being very lighthearted about quite a serious situation? How do you do that with a mask when people just can't see that you're smiling? You know, that's a big challenge for me.
Yeah.
So we'll have to sort of see how that how it all works.
It's also, I've had a couple of experiences where you're working with people you know well, or creatives, and you have kind of, you know, either a good day or a bad day or whatever, but you then want to, you know, we're so used to being tactile and hugging, or, you know, having that moment at the end of the day where you just give everyone a hug and a good night, and then you come back the next day and it's sort of like, oh no, stand back. Do that. So that's tricky too. That's tricky.
People you haven't seen in a long time that you kind of be like, hey, you know, I haven't seen you for like, you know, 6 months, or, you know, especially now, you know, it's even longer. And you really just, you know, it's a really friendly, fun industry, and the people that you really enjoy working with that you haven't worked with for a while, especially when you're so happy to be working like this year, where, you know, a lot of us haven't done anything all year. So when we did this job at the start of December, it was really difficult not to be like, yay, you're here, we're doing a job, you know. So you know, that little elbow bump has you know, I've nearly worn my elbow away now.
Well, we've got a few questions coming in thick and fast now, Emma, so I'm gonna just go through a couple of them now. So Tamara has asked you, as one of the few women who have broken through the glass ceiling that women in our industry still often face, are you starting to see an improvement in opportunities for women, particularly in the higher level roles, rather than just the sort of low, you know, entry level?
Definitely, yeah, 100%. I mean, even just say at Glastonbury, you know, the female, you know, the female bookers, like the John Peel stage has got a young female booker now. I don't think that would have happened, you know, a few years back. And also the woman that we work with, that we used to work with on the Hot Farm, who does Black Deer as well, Bev, you know, she's an amazing sort of female booker, and she's sort of been, you know, rising her way up through things over the years. And yeah, you know, there's I know I keep going back to Glastonbury, but because it is my biggest job, it's obviously my first reference point. But you know, there's so many women in massive managerial roles at Glastonbury. You know, the site designer Jackie, you know, the people that do licensing, you know, the ticketing, you know, there's some huge like jobs that are done by women there, which I just think is absolutely incredible. And you know, I also do the Mercury Music Prize and work with the BPI on that. And you know, the main client of the BPI is this, you know, amazing female who, you know, is there like absolutely running things on the Mercuries, but also on the Brits. And you know, there's some really incredible women that, you know, exist, and like amazing sort of female designers. And like I said earlier, seeing a lot of you know, technical roles go to women now with big bands. Like I said, when a touring production sort of comes past my way and they've got, you know, a female, like, you know, head of audio, or, you know, a female lighting designer, I just think that's incredible. And I do see that a lot more now, which is just, you know, it's just amazing. And it's that very like the technical stuff as well. I know there's been a lot of sort of female tour managers around for a while, which is brilliant. But seeing, like I said, like head of audio be female, you know, and they've got like a, you know, a big group of men, like, you know, all sort of going, yes, like, you know, so this amazing woman, you know, I love seeing things like that. And so yeah, definitely seeing a lot of that, which is just brilliant. And I really hope that carries on, you know, very much so. So thanks, Tamara, for that. That was a great question.
Yeah, and I think it's about visibility as well. I think you know, rightly or wrongly, women just get on with the job. They don't necessarily herald it from the rooftop. So sometimes we don't see in sort of like, you know, our event industry media or whatever, we don't see those roles or those women in those roles particularly publicized. But like you say, Emma, they are there when you begin to look for them. So
yeah, definitely. I think if you're in that mindset, you kind of seem to like spot them a lot more, you know.
Of course, of course. So I've got a question here from Lucy as well. In an industry where people are often expected to give all of their time and energy to their job, do you recommend keeping up with hobbies and other interests? It sounds like you sidestep towards the role from your hobby, like the skating, which is really cool, but sometimes it feels hard to justify.
Very much so. It's very much an all-encompassing job, hugely, and I am very guilty of letting my personal life, you know, fall by the wayside when I'm super busy and really focused on things. But that's where I found this year to be really useful in terms of like all the horrible stuff that's happened and trying to see like the positives that you can take from it, realizing how important, you know, all the fitness side of things that I definitely shelve when I'm really busy, I'm gonna 100% make sure that I keep all of that like firmly in my schedule, like going forward. That, you know, I do loads of like hot yoga when the studio's open, and you know, that's just been so good for me in terms of like my mindset over this time, and you know, getting outside a lot more, all of that. I'm definitely gonna, you know, gonna keep, you know, that as a big part of my day going forward, because it is so easy, you know, you just kind of sit at your desk sort of plugged in all day. When you're doing the advanced work, it is very much, you know, a sedentary job, and it's just so easy to just sit here for like 20 hours a day on a computer. At least when you're on site with a job, you know, you're sort of running around a lot more, and you know, but using like, you know, a little section of the day for yourself just to get away. And you know, when I'm on Glastonbury, actually I do run a lot around the site, which you know, is been an incredible way of, you know, just sort of getting all the blood pumping. But I started doing that because I never see anything. You know, people would come back and be like, oh my God, there's this and there's that. And I'd be like, really? And I'm just kind of like fenced into this like little area in the middle of the field, and everything kind of gets built around us, and we just kind of drive out and don't see anything. So I actually started running around the site so that I could kind of take it all in during the build, and you know, would run around and, you know, sort of run past block 9 and things like that, and just kind of be like, wow, that wasn't there yesterday, you know, and kind of see it all like that. And I think doing that when I'm not on site and taking that back to, you know, the everyday, like the other, you know, 300 days a year, that's what's going to be really important for me, I think, and I've been a big like part of learning during this whole process. So yeah, it's taught me, you know, how important that really is, you know, that kind of self-care and time for yourself, because like I said, it's just this all-encompassing job, and you could work 30 hours a day if they were there, but I think, yeah, keeping it in your schedule and going, okay, right, now's the time where I'm going to go off and do this for myself, is something I'm going to, yeah, carry through.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Emma. And Michael's also referred to sort of mental health and, you know, how to look after yourself. And I think, like you say, this year has been an interesting chance for us all to really reflect on our own mental health now, but also when we are very busy. And you know, I think about the amount of time I've spent mowing the lawn. I mean, I never get time to do that normally. Like, you know, I have to hire someone to do it. But, you know, all of those things where you just have that bit more time where we're not as busy makes you kind of go, actually, I think we need to think about that, the flip side of this as well, you know, as well as getting through a period of not doing so much work. Yeah. It's about when we are doing lots of work.
I tell you what I've been thinking about a lot in terms of mental health is, you know, talking to people that are in all these different situations. And, you know, although it's been like just awful for all of us, I don't know anybody that's gone, this has been great for me in our world. You know, it's been really difficult for everybody. There's definitely, I've noticed like a sliding scale of like stress, and I feel really fortunate, you know, to be in a situation where, yes, it's horrible and it has been incredibly stressful, but there's definitely people that have found it really a lot more stressful than I have for many reasons, be it financial or, you know, the mindset they're in before all of this kicked in, or, you know, relationships, and loads of different reasons why there's been people finding this time really difficult. And something that I've thought about a lot is other people's mental health, my team, and really thinking about that and thinking that all the time, even when we're not going through this situation, that we are all in together, which I hate that phrase. We're all in this together. No, you're not. We're in, you know, we're in like a really bad boat compared to a lot of people. But you know, in this instance, we know we're all going through something at the same time. But when we go back to work, and hopefully when everything is a lot more normal, everybody is still going to be going through something. And that's been something that's always really like been in my mindset of like, okay, how do I kind of recognize that when we get back to more of a sense of normality, that, you know, people might be struggling, or they're having a tough time due to things that, you know, aren't on our radar, they're not on the news, you know, we're not thinking about it all the time, but people will always have those stresses and, you know, personal grievances that they're sort of going through. And how can I recognize them, and how can I help my team at a time when we're super busy? How can I be that support system for them? So that's something that I really want to, you know, sort of take with me and work on and find out, you know, how I can be, you know, thinking about other people's mental health all the time now, because it's really highlighted it this year, but people are still going to have those mental health, you know, challenges when work is hopefully sort of back to normal. So that's something I really want to take with me and kind of figure out how I can be the best, you know, support system for a team of people that I can be going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a really valid, you know, recognition of that, Emma. And I also think as well, by the time we all get back to work, our show fitness is going to be poor. I mean, you know, potentially we might go through 2 years of not having delivered some pretty big work. And I think just having that sense of getting through that together and supporting, like you say, your teams through that, because we're not going to be match fit. There's no way we can be. We've, you know, unfortunately had to just take a step back for a bit. So I think you're right. We're all going to have to really consider what that means to be back in work full time and going at full pelt when we haven't done it for such a long time.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really important for everyone to kind of to say right at the beginning, okay, like if you're not comfortable with something, if you're not happy, it's okay to say I'm not cool with this right now. And it doesn't matter if you're the person who's offered to come in and make tea, or you're like, you know, the big sort of boss person. Like, you know, you can all say that to each other, like, be it you're actually standing a bit close to me and it's making me feel uncomfortable, even though we're not, you know, we don't have to socially distance. I'd prefer it if you did, or, you know, these things are going a bit too fast for me here, can you kind of slow it down a bit? Or this, you know, I knew this would be a long day, but actually I'm kind of struggling with it being a long day. I think everyone being okay with saying I'm not cool with this, and just like having that right at the beginning, that's something that I definitely want to kind of put out there when we're sort of hopefully back doing jobs, is to say, if you're not cool with anything that we used to do before and take it as the norm, just say, you know, and it doesn't matter who you are or what that is, just say I'm not really cool with this right now, and we'll address it, you know. And I think that's how we need to kind of be a bit more like that kind of going forward, you know, because there's so many layers to everything now. Like, it's like you said, we're not match fit, it's physically but mentally as well. You know, I've found when I've had to do stuff, it's been like, wow, like this is really taxing, you know. But I've also tried to keep myself kind of busy in terms of, I say I'm working even when it's not necessarily, you know, a project that I'm on at the moment. I've had tasks that I've needed to do for my company, like finish my website and switch over accountants and get all of that up to scratch. And there was loads of little things that had fallen by the wayside that needed sorting out. And I've got this big list of, okay, this is what I'm achieving today, you know, and doing that has really kept my brain fitter, as well as, like I said, doing, you know, the cycling and the other sort of physical sort of fitness things. I've tried to keep my brain a bit fitter as well by just thinking, right, what do I need to do? You know, I needed to apply for a new passport in my married name and a new driving license and all these things that, you know, John and I got married like 18 months ago and I hadn't formally kind of changed my name on anything like banking or anything. I didn't have time. And it was like, okay, like all of these things that, you know, I need to do, and, you know, I need to get a different, you know, business credit cards and all the things that you just never have time to do. I kind of make sure that for sort of 4 hours a day I'm kind of working, do you know what I mean, like doing job related things, and that's definitely kept the brain kind of a little bit more in tune. But definitely when hopefully soon things are back to full pelt, I'm hoping that that's like a gradual
gradual way in.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm just going to read a sort of comment and question there from Zach Fox. So, Emma, I totally agree that stage management is a dark art. I'm always in awe of the good ones. The scale of what you do, you have to be good at from the minute the trap doors open to when they close, and when different people and the different people you interact with all of the day. What personal qualities do you think make you really good at your role?
Oh, thank you, Zach. That's a great question. Definitely like having that sense of humour. Like I said earlier, you know, that's why I found it challenging kind of having the mask and people not seeing that you're like, you know, smiling. I found, yeah, having a sense of humour, not having an ego has been a massive like boon for me in terms of stage management. You know, you don't have that kind of big kind of ego off between the blokes that they sometimes have. Sorry guys if anyone's listening, and that is like, I don't mean for that to be offensive, but I've definitely witnessed that between men. I think that's just a, you know, a natural thing, you know, between the male species. So not having that ego, having a sense of humor, and having, like we said before, having done the kind of tour side of things and knowing what it's like to be super tired getting off the bus, and you know, and that your other loadout might have been an absolute nightmare, and you know, having that understanding is always in my mind. And it was a really good point when you said, Zach, about the different personalities that you see. I always think that's the hardest part of what our jobs are, whether you're, you know, artist liaison, or you know, you're a booker, or you're a production manager, you're a rigger. It's the people that you have to deal with, and I think that's the best part of the job, and can also be the worst part of the job. You know, our industry definitely attracts some really strong personalities, and you're not always going to have that chemistry with everybody. But I think understanding that and knowing that, you know, you're not there to be everybody's friend. If you go in and have a sense of humor, great, and if you can have a laugh and have a great time, brilliant. But ultimately, you know, you're there to do a job, just get the job done, deliver it as best you can, you know, understand what everybody needs, and just be really organized and communicate. So many people think that knowledge is power and they have to hold on to all of the information themselves. I'm the opposite. I'm like, get all of the information, put it on a massive spreadsheet, stick it on the side of the stage wall. Anyway, if I've nipped to the loo and someone wants to know what power requirement the main support monitor desk has got, they can go and find it on a little spreadsheet, you know. And I think that's something that not a lot of people like to do, is sharing all of that. They sort of think they need to hang on to a lot of that information, but I'm a big advocate of, you know, it's no secret. You know, it's all here to be shared, and also understanding what everybody else's job is and why they're there to do that job and why that's important. Do you know what I mean? That for me has been really valuable, just getting what all of these other people that work on a stage do, what all of these audio people do, what all of these lighting people do, like what is their specific job and why are they so important, why. And having a really good team as well, having people around me that I trust and I know that they've got my back. That for me is a massive thing. You know, I work with my husband a lot, and that for me has been crucial, because I just know that someone's 100% got my back and they're not kind of waiting for me to make a massive mistake and then go, I'm going to tell the client about that. You know, it's you always sort of feel like when you're doing a lot of these bigger jobs that, you know, people kind of maybe are, you know, just waiting for you to make a mistake. You know, I do think it can be a really odd industry to work in. So having people around me that I completely trust, you know, I've built this absolutely amazing team now of male and female, you know, all brilliant at what they do, and that trust that, you know, I know they've got my back. And I like to build loyalty with people, so you know, I'll tend to get them on quite a few repeat jobs, you know, so we've got that that rapport, but also that loyalty. You know, people feel like they're a really valued part of your team, then I just feel like they're more likely to support you like 100%, you know, not like 99%, but like 100%. So yeah, having that brilliant team around me is just, yeah, super important. So yeah, hopefully that question.
Oh, thank you, Emma. Well, we're just coming to the end of the hour now, so, and there's no other questions. I just have a sort of parting question for you as our sort of closing moment. Legend slot or the headliner? Which one do you prefer?
Oh, good question. It really depends year on year, and for me, it's actually like the juxtaposition of the two that I love. You know, like my first year there, Metallica and Dolly Parton on the same bill. Like, where else are you ever going to see anything like that? And, you know, that's what I like, is just the diversity, you know. And I think the legend slot, you're always going to get someone that you're like, I never thought I'd work with this person. Do you know what I mean? And that, so maybe the Legends slot just about pips it, I think, just for the fact that, like I said, it's like a Dolly Parton or a Kylie, you know, someone that, you know, this year it's going to be Diana Ross, you know, it's like someone that you never thought you would work with, you know. And I think that with the Legends slot in particular, they just tend to have the most incredible team that's been with them for like 30 years and are just so friendly and so easy to work with, you know. They tend to be really enjoyable to work with. Yeah, like Lionel Richie's team are incredible, and I said Dolly Parton's team, just that really, like, they're really comfortable with each other, you know, and they're just working for this, like, you know, amazing person that they've been with for forever, who's just a consummate professional normally by, you know, the amount of years that they've been touring. So yeah, it is it's pretty much a favourite. It's the Legends.
Brilliant, thank you.
And obviously they don't load in overnight, so we don't have to stay up and wait for them, which is always a favourite.
Always a bonus. Emma, it's been so insightful, fantastic, and I hope everyone who's been with us this evening have enjoyed it, having you with us as much as I have.
Thank you for having me. Genuinely, thanks for everyone for tuning in, asking questions. Like, it means the world. It's been really nice to be connected with everyone, so thank you.
Yeah, brilliant. Oh, thank you, Emma, and thank you all. Best wishes for the new year. Hopefully the tide is turning after today's news, so good luck, good best wishes to everybody, and happy new year, and thank you, Emma.